Hello, everybody! Welcome back to another episode of the Unturned podcast. I'm your host, cucuycharles, and we're joined once again by the Knight Rider,
What's up, my dudes?
Trident Games,
Hi guys.
Z-Man 1064. We have a special
These balls
guest
are
today,
hot.
Lyhme.
What's up, guys?
So
Yo.
we asked you last week, or I don't even remember when I asked you, but we asked you a couple weeks ago to join us on the podcast due to recent events with your server hosting company. If people don't know, this is Uncle Lyhme, the person that's run Lyhme since how long? How long have you actually run Lyhme?
It's been like 6 years, you said?
Yeah, I started Lyme back in 2014.
In 2014?
Yep.
For
That
Unturned?
was June of 2014 we came out, and that it came under the name of Lyme's Network. And then later Unturned was released. And then that's and then I got into Unturned 2, and then I played it a little bit, and then I was like, let's create a server. And then I had an extra computer lying around, put like 2 Unturned servers on it, or like started with 1, and it like blew up. And this is when Unturned 2 had like a server browser, and then I created another one, and it took off.
I see. So that's you started before actually anything really picked up, I would assume. So that's interesting.
Yeah, like when it really got major traction for the game.
That's interesting. So you were there for a very long time. Actually, how long have you've been playing Unturned basically since 2014?
Yeah.
Basically? Okay.
All right, that's pretty.
It's a long
cool.
time.
Yeah. Like there's something else I was going to follow up with. Is there anything interesting that you remember from that time that was kind of like hey, this is why I wanted to play this game? Like, what was the reasoning for playing the game, like, for you when you started off?
For me, it was just like, it was very interesting. I have a history of playing on Arma and whatnot, and so when I played Arma, I was like, oh, let's just try this other zombie survival game, and I got on it with like a friend or something like that, and I thought the map was massive, but ended up just being PEI, and I was like, wow! And then I was like, let's just create a server on it. So I just more of like, I never really fully gotten into playing Unturned, but rather on the side of things, I got into like the logistical side of things of like hosting the servers and providing a quality server to play on.
That's interesting.
Hey, someone got to do it, you know.
So the idea was just to like, what was your idea of making the company then? Like, what was the whole process behind that?
So really, it started out as Lyme's Network, and then later it branched out due to I signed a contract with a data center to get 2 computers at a discounted rate, and to make the bill each month, I've created Lyme's hosting and sold servers. Like, have you ever been to like a sketchy website where you're just like, this is really sketch?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Lyme's hosting first started. So I got like PayPal buttons, WordPress, and it just looks so like sketchy and whatnot. But in that same time, I had a large esports like company reach out to me and was like, "Hey, can you host my Arc server?" Because I was hosting for Intech at the time, and they're like, "Hey, can you host us?" And like this major game like eClan came out, and I helped them, and then later they branched out, and I provided them like the necessary resources to get their own computer and whatnot. So it was definitely an interesting time period of experiencing all that.
So you weren't just hosting for Unturned, you were hosting for a whole slew of games at the beginning of hosting, from what I'm gathering, right?
It started with like Unturned, and then Intech was getting into the YouTuber was getting into Arc when that first came out, and so I helped support him in that whole adventure.
I see. So okay, that's kind of interesting. I guess I wanted the reason why we even brought you on in the first place was sadly you were what exactly are you doing with Lyme right now? Because even I'm somewhat confused by it. I think the majority of people are confused by what does it even mean. So I was hoping that you could maybe explain a little bit of like what you're doing now with Lyme, because it's one of the biggest things that's happened with Unturned when it comes to server hostings, like providers.
Most definitely. I think the best way to look at it is Lyme. So Lyme, it's called. So the corporation's called Lyme Inc. And then that's has two different departments. There's Lyme Community, which I host my own Unturned servers, and that started back in 2014. And then the hosting side of things, where that I've recently announced that I'm closing down, started in 2015. And so that's more of like people can come to me and be like, hey, can you host my Unturned server? That's what I'm closing down. And to be able to later down the road, I'm wanting to open it back up, but I'm not sure yet.
So what's the deal with that? What's the like? Why are you closing it exactly? Like why?
It's the big thing is the stress that's coming with it, with the financial loss that has been occurring. When the pandemic first started, we did pick up. We exploded, and we got a lot of traction. But as the pandemic has slowed, is we've also slowed, and so hosting and creating a hosting company is a very dynamic business where you have your high peaks and you have your low peaks, and sometimes you take losses on computers to be able to keep them running, to hope that they break a profit down the road.
So
All right,
you've
I
been
got
running
it.
at a
So here's
loss.
what you do. Here's what you do. Okay, you buy the labs in Wuhan. You engineer an even more deadly
God.
virus. Release it to make another pandemic. Profit.
Oh,
This guy.
Nice.
So have you been
Mhm.
operating at a loss for how long? Have you been operating for a loss for like more than a year?
I would say it's been happening probably for a few months now. I'm not 100% sure. I can't really put a month on it, as each month has been dynamically, like some months have been completely amazing and other months have not. I've had to dive into my own finances to be able to keep things going and running, and whatnot.
I see.
I
So
see.
Was
I didn't know that it was a loss.
What's that?
was server hosting like very profitable in like the golden years, I guess, of your
Yeah,
Most
like was
career?
this your main income? Like was this your job or is this more like a second income?
This was it's so like to give a history, I guess, about me. So I started in 2014, like
Mhm.
this whole corporation, and then I later got into like I had jobs on and off
Yeah.
throughout that time, and then after, or at least one job, and then later down the road, it became a secondary income, and so I've kind of put that on the side and the revenue let everything that comes from it pay for itself. And then now it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, I can't keep pulling from my own income to be able to keep it
Right.
it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I heard from people was how you kept your servers so cheap as opposed to the competition, because a lot of them are pretty expensive from the pricings
Yeah.
I was seeing, and you were like one of the only server providers that was actually like providing like cheap services. So people were asking me even prior to this, like, ask him like, how do you keep your prices so like cheap? But I assume it's
That
because
comes
you're
down
operating at a
to
loss.
I guess, how long I've been in the business. Towards the end of everything, I was offered $10 off every single computer that I have through the provider. So like I've gone through multiple providers to be able to provide the network of locations that I have, and one of them was like, "Hey, we'll just like to keep you going. We'll give you $10 off," and so that helped a lot to be able to pass off to the customer. But it's also to be able to finding quality nodes that like at a low price. And so it's not about like going to the cheapest option. It's more of there's the quality, and then as that company has grown, they can offer a powerful node at a low price.
I see, because I mean, I've been like, I've had a server from you guys from since 2019. I've been paying it off ever since to this day. So, I'm surprised by the pricings of other servers, and I was looking into it when I asked you about it, and I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. Because once we heard that you were going like shutting down, I was like, So what's the deal with everyone else? And I was like, God damn, they're really hitting you in the wallet, huh? So yeah, that was something interesting I wanted to ask you. I think there's a question in our Discord server specifically for Lyme. I'm trying to remember it. Night,
Oh yeah, someone put it. It's like way back up.
Yes. Let me see. Yeah, okay, more of a general question for Nilex, no.
I also got a question, but well, actually, should I ask that now while we wait?
Uncle the Night Rider asks for Uncle Lyme, what the dog doing?
Okay, that's not what I was.
Man,
I'm asking for a
Great
real.
question.
Okay, fine. J-Dance for Uncle Lyme. What inspired you to start a hosting company?
I think it was just to be able to provide. The big thing was just to be able to help me make ends meet to keep the Lyme community around.
Huh.
So my main focus was to keep Lyme community around, keep that flowing, and to be able to provide hosting. So like, get hosting helps provide for Lyme community and to keep that going. I never in a million years really expected us to have, at our prime, I think we had like 12 locations across the globe, and it definitely amazes me of how far we got and how long we were able to keep going. Could I very well chosen not to close down? Absolutely. But with a kiddo on the way, it's right now, I think it's best that this does happen, and then down the road I can reopen with learning from what happened this time by ways of, I could have budgeted better, I could have gotten better notes. It gives me a fresh start of learning from my mistakes this time.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's understandable why you're shutting down, because life. I get it. What was the other thing I was gonna ask you? Has there been anyone that's ever tried to like buy you out? I guess that's something interesting I wanted to ask you, because I assume there were some people that were trying to like do a deal with you behind the scenes for whenever you started to maybe even now.
No one never came to me. I was shared among private messages that I was told that another hosting company offered me money, but if that claim is false, to my understanding, from what I've seen and what I've read, no one has come to me and was like, "Hey, I'll offer you X amount of dollars to buy you out."
No one's ever like asked you for like a partnership, like no one at all.
To buy me out to be able to take all my customers.
No, not buy you out, but like just ask for like, hey, can we, like, can I be in a partnership with Lyme hosting or something like that?
So that's where Modern has come into. I've had Pine Hosting reach out to me, and I've had Modern reach out to me. Before it was originally like, hey, we're just going to close down. We're not going to partner with anyone. But then later, Modern was like, hey, we're down to partner. We'll take your customers from you, and we'll keep them going. And so that's what's taken place now.
What was the reasoning for going to Modern?
The first person
I was going to ask that.
And that's where I feel more comfortable with Modern than such as a company such as Pine Hosting.
I see.
Why is that?
It was ran by Mr. Staswalle.
I think it's just from the previous experience that I've had with them. I don't really know them that well, and so I haven't really established that, I guess, that friendship with them. I think if I did, I think it would definitely be a different situation. With Modern Mo, I know him on a different level than, let's say, Brad and whatnot.
Yeah. Question.
What's up?
Do you have any tips for people who want to start their own hosting service, just in general?
That could legitimately be an entire podcast episode itself. I can give so many details, so many ways to help save money and whatnot, because I live a frugal life, and that's the lifestyle I really want to aim for. That's what I'm trying to live for. And so I think it comes down to not giving up and to be able to be willing to take risks when it comes to hosting, because it does come with lots of risks. I can give you guys a background where I've tried to expand to Australia multiple times, and each time has never been really successful. So it's it's all about trying and seeing if something blows up. Where a lot of the time with my own hosting company, when I've tried to expand somewhere, it's always like, okay, we'll buy this computer, hope it performs, and if it doesn't, we take that loss. But if it does, it's another location, and we can grow in that location.
Yeah. All right, sweet.
Then I was gonna have a question. I swear, Knight, there is a question in the question chat for Lyhme.
That was the only. That was
the
those
only
were
question.
the only
There was
one.
like one more. I swear.
Okay.
No, there was another one.
Eunice asked a question. Okay. Eunice asks for Uncle Lyhme, how on earth were your prices so cheap? And we talked about that already.
Oh, yeah.
So great job, Eunice.
Yeah. So good job, Eunice. Those are literally the only. Those are the only three.
I have a
Good
question.
job,
How much of a I don't know if you can answer this. How much of a loss were you, like how much like in the red were you for keeping the prices cheap? Like for how long and like how much?
I would say definitely a few $100s each month, and that may not sound like a lot, but it definitely adds up as each month passes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like fucking Brad's network. The net worth
Here we
month.
go. Here we go. Eunice asks, why didn't Knight Writer get enough attention growing up? Man, my parents were begging for my attention, okay? I didn't give it to them. How about that? How about that, huh, Eunice?
I like how he answers that. I asked for line questions.
I think it's important to make it known where Lyhme didn't close down because of like, I guess, any like drama or anything like that. Lyhme is closing down because of financial. It's to be able to provide for my family, to be able to get out of the red, and to be able to start getting on my feet more. And then once that happens, I would definitely love to return, and I would love to continue to offer a great service, a improved service, and to be able to have a more consistency. With a hosting company, it definitely takes time, and a lot of as my company evolved, it evolved from using E3 1270s, 24 gigabytes of RAM, and a 1 terabyte hard drive to later down the road to an i7 9700K, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and two 500 gig SSDs. So it's definitely down the road. I would love to jump to where it's more of a common amongst, to be able to make the claim of, hey, 100% SSD instead of an HDD, because I wouldn't want my own game servers be on an HDD. I would love to be able to have them be on a rated SSD to be able to have that redundancy.
I guess I wanted to ask this once we got out of the way from the majority of this, but 4.0, what was your experience basically with thinking about hosting a service for 4.0 when Nelson was first talking about it and the first actual servers were coming up? Because I believe you hosted, was it 1 or 2 servers for 4.0?
So when 4.0 came out, I hosted a ton. For the community, I hosted lots of them. I even offered where people can come in and go buy them to be able to host their own 4.0 servers at a low price. But then people were constantly confusing them with Unturned 3 servers, so that caused a bit of a hiccup there. But with my community, we were hosting probably one of every single map at the time at all my locations.
Were you ready to go? Were you ready to go full on? Once 4 was ready to go, go ahead and just try to take over the market when it came to server hosting there? Because again, even now, there's not. I think there's only 4 servers that exist currently on 4.0. Last time I checked, could be wrong now, but. What was do you have a plan for 4 when you were back in maybe 2018, 19?
I didn't necessarily have a plan. I think I was definitely looking forward to it. My community was evolving a lot, where it's hey, should we just wait for 4.0? And it was a very difficult battle amongst inside my community of what we should do because of where Unturned was at that time. It was a very difficult task of hey, do we go create this custom content or whatever it may be, or do we wait for 4.0? It was a very halfies of what to do.
So wait, was there ever a consideration of pulling out of 3 and just waiting for 4 to materialize, or was that never on the table?
I think it was more of wanting to switch over to hoping to host them together, and then probably as 4.0 grew to be able to close later down 3.
I see. So okay, I was wondering too. Would you come back for 4 if it got really like big again? If Unturned was back in like that golden years of people wanting to buy servers and have like just fun on there, would you consider going to 4 even after right now when you're closing?
Yeah, I think I would, and just not even for 4.0, I would want to come back for 3.0 and to offer a well improved Lyme hosting, where there was internal talks about like, hey, let's switch to a new control panel, because I believe my control panel now, like that is not the greatest, and I would have loved to switch to a different control panel. But to be able to do that would have been a massive undertaking of switching the operating systems to changing the clients and whatnot.
I see.
All right. So, what does a day at Lyme Inc. look like? Just an average day. What do you do to like maintain a server? Do what you do with all that stuff?
So I personally took a step back from Lyme's hosting, and a lot from Lyme for a good while now. I used to grind pretty much from, let's say, 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and that was my life for the longest time. And with me getting into the world of jobs and whatnot, it's diverted my time. And now with my wife in the picture, now it's just providing for them and to making ends meet and whatnot, to be able to, because I have my own apartment now, so I have to be able to make those bills be paid. But it's more of I took the side of things of paying the bills, and to be able to like, hey, should we cancel this node or should we pay for this node?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a based Sigma grind.
So you have to deal with support tickets for the longest time solo? Is that what you're telling me?
For the longest time, it was so when the Lyme first started, it started at a really weird website, and I think I gave the customer FTP access, and I was like, hey, I'll update your server for you. I'll maintain it for you. And then Alex, my old manager, came into the picture, and then he's like, hey, let's get a control panel. And that's when we introduced Lyme Panel, and we offered that, and that's where a lot of things started taking off. So it wasn't necessarily me only taking care of them. It was I got help along the way. Maybe in the early stages I did, and periodically I did maintain them a lot. But a lot of time towards the end I took a step back.
So you could say that you were dealing with a lot of people when you was just basically you and maybe like a few others when it comes to like people.
So at times it was definitely like I started Lyme when I was in high school, so I used to walk around with the Unturned consoles looking like with an iPad looking like I was hacking. So I thought it was funny of walking around the school and having my history teacher see it and whatnot. So I just thought it was funny, but it was just Unturned chatter and whatnot. So that
is funny.
Did anyone like? I guess you could ask this. Did anyone in your real life like question you on this? Did anyone say that this was like a dumb idea?
Did you get bullied for it?
I was more of that quiet nerd kid, I would say.
He got bullied.
That's how I would
describe myself. Bullied for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Did anyone question you on like anything that you were doing when people saw that, or like what was the common reaction? I would say.
I think they were proud of me. That I think people thought it was like really cool. Because before I registered my business, I looked at it as Lyme hosting and Lyme community was 2 separate businesses. And I looked at that and I was like, yeah, I run 2 businesses. And I thought it was just like the coolest thing to say ever. And so just like people were like shocked by it. I used to go in, and my mother used to work at a dealership. And so they had a lime green supercar, and I took a picture by it, and I was like, hey, just bought this car, making me look all cool.
So Lyme,
What's
How
up?
was it owning one of the top hosting services for Unturned?
What was that like?
Oh,
How was
how
I?
was it? How was it owning one of the top services, like hosting services for Unturned,
I
like
think
benefits and stuff?
it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of weight because Unturned is such a dynamic game where one update can be flawlessly and the next update can break a lots of things, and the next thing you know, you have people coming for you and be like, "Hey, this is broken." You're like, "This is out of my control," and type things.
Have you actually? That's an interesting point. Have you ever had to like tell Nelson, "Hey, what are you doing, man?"
Yeah, I know.
Like, have you ever had to like ask him, like, bro, like, can you not?
I think in the early stages when Unturned 3 was coming out, every single update, Rocket Mod had to update as well. And so that was definitely a time period where an update came out, you have to wait for Rocket Mod to update as well. So that was definitely an interesting time period to experience. Because I remember working alongside Nelson, and I remember when Unturned 3 was very, very fresh, and we were on the small first map. I forgot what it was called, and I used to like help him with, I guess like when you move the character and then have the gun shoot you or something like that. I helped him with internal testing and whatnot, so that was a super cool
So you
experience.
played on
Just a fun bit.
well, now it's Alpha Valley. You played on
Yes.
was it Brava? I think it was. What was it called? The test map, the first map ever on Unturned.
Yeah.
With him.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I met Nelson when I was hosting for 2, and then 3 was in preview, like was still in the process of being creation, and I was friends with, like, it goes way back. Like I know, like, I had a friend that was live streaming Unturned, and Nelson joined that live stream, and we freaked out and was like, oh, "It's Nelson!" And then like that later dwindled into like meeting Nelson and being his friend on Steam, and then talking to him here and there.
I see. So
Nice.
you've had
Well,
a
I think
relationship with Nelson
one
since
lesson we
the
can take away from all of this is Rocket Mod was a mistake.
beginning.
No.
I guess we can
Maybe-
talk about this. There's also another community member that used to be the main person that hold Rocket Mod. Did you have any interaction with Sven at all? Do you have any?
Yes.
How many interactions?
So
did you
I have a long history with Sven, and then the guy who worked alongside him, his name was Gray or something like that. I also worked with him. I also talked. That's the guy who was live streaming.
I see. So, what was I want to
And
know more
then I was
about this
trying
because
to have my
he's an interesting
server
character.
band and whatnot. It's a long history.
Was it a long history? Was it? There was nothing negative between anyone in any party with him, correct? There wasn't no beef, no nothing. It was just pretty.
Was Sven?
Yeah, with Sven, because there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that told
we've
me
had our
things.
trouble. We've had our conflict. I've been doxxed by him, and when Discord was
Okay.
around, he's put my mother as his picture, his avatar picture.
No, he
on
did
That's
not.
okay. So this is some of
He
the things
did?
I was hearing like a very long time ago. I wasn't necessarily sure if that is true. That's fucking crazy.
Oh, come on. That's just funny. That's just
What
funny.
the
I
fuck?
wouldn't.
Wait, what?
No,
do you
I
mean
wouldn't
that's
even be
funny,
mad,
Knight
bro. I
Rider?
wouldn't even be mad, bro. If that.
I mean, I would.
I would get mad. What the fuck, dude?
Knight Rider nerd
Okay, maybe a
emoji.
little.
The thing
Okay,
is,
maybe a little. No, shut up! Shut up!
Yeah, again, like the reason why I asked that is because a lot of people have really bad experiences with Sven, and I want to know if again, neither you've explained it. Like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, like I was in the trenches with working alongside him. Like I've had my own drama with him. It's definitely it was difficult at the time. Working with him, I've had my servers be threatened that I won't be able to use Rocket Mod at all, and so it was definitely an interesting experience.
So he was damn. That's kind of interesting lore. Thank you for that. I want to know more about that. That pieces some things together. Did anyone else step in for that? Because I know, like, usually Nelson never stepped in when it came to anything that Sven really did. So was it really just you and versus him most of the time when conflicts happen? It's just you guys had to sort your shit out. Was that really what it was?
Yeah, I believe so. A lot of the time, I don't remember a lot of details of everything that occurred back then. I definitely know that Lyme was at its prime time in, I would say, 2016 and whatnot. Um, we were the number one major community in Unturned, but then that slowly was taken over for, let's say, like Panda Hut and whatnot. And so it's definitely, I learned of like Sven created the idea of creative, and I wanted to know how to do that myself, and so that's where Lyme started to get really popular. Of like, oh, how do you do creative? I want to do that, and then I try to figure it out and whatnot. So it's been a journey.
I see. Okay, that's interesting. Has there ever been like another server provider, or have you ever like looked at the competition to see what other people are doing?
Most definitely, I think a lot of it's learning how GTX does it, how does Host Havoc do it,
Havoc, yeah.
and learning from them and modeling and learning from them as they go.
Has there been ever a moment when you're like looking at your competition and been like, oh shit, they did this so good. Why haven't I been doing this? Has there ever been a moment like that?
Yes, I would say Host Havoc's website.
I mean,
they have thousands of dollars where they can go drop $5,000 on a brand new website. Where I'm over here, I'm just like, okay, let's go look up and use a template and edit that.
That's funny because they host Arc and Rust servers from what I remember. As they're the main like survival like hosting service.
Host Havoc is an amazing provider. I personally use them now for my web hosting and whatnot, and so it's definitely, I would say that they're a major player in the gaming like hosting field now, and so they also use a provider that I use, and so it definitely it's an interesting history. Like so like if you go to dedicated.com, that was the provider I used, and so I knew them way before that they were classified as dedicated.com, and then they started in LA and later grew where they are now, and I knew the CEO, and so I talked to the CEO quite often, and so that's how I also got like discounts and whatnot. And so he shared with me that he was going to go buy a hosting company, and he already owns his own hosting company, so it was very interesting of like, hey, who are you going to buy? And he never told me, and I thought, to this day, I personally believe that Host Havoc is owned by dedicated.com, but I can't put my finger on it, but it's definitely something that I believe in.
That's interesting. I mean, I know. I currently staff for a server that uses Host Havoc, and it's kind of I think now, like since it's an older kind of server, I don't know if that's the problem, but certain things just stop working after a while. It's kind of funny. But the
control panel that Host Havoc uses, I don't think is that good anymore.
No,
it's based on TC Admin 2, and that's what we're using now. But I think it's not the best control panel option out there. It's definitely a good option that you can go from. But if I could go back now, I would choose a different control panel. So I've dropped thousands of dollars on TC Admin.
I see. So
go ahead. Have you ever had like any sort of encounter when it comes to like servers with hagglers, like people who want their servers for a lot less?
I think a lot, not necessarily like that, but I think I get a lot of people reaching out of being like, hey, can I get a free server? Can I get a free server? And whatnot. Like, I think a lot of new communities that are coming out, they would definitely reach out and be like, hey, can I get a free server? And I'll advertise you. And I have 90 members in my Discord or something like that. So it's definitely, I like, hats off to them for their asking, because I think that's definitely important in this modern era, to be able to ask, because you don't know what you'll receive.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been like any beef with any other server providers with that, like anyone else, or no? You guys been pretty much cool with each other?
I've never I've never had like communication with other hosting providers. It's more of like, I stay in my own lane and they stay on their own lane, and we'll just compete on SEO and like and whatnot. And so I've never, not like gaming communities, it's more of, it's just I keep to myself when it comes to that.
I
I
see.
see.
Was there ever a moment where you reconsidered being like, I guess I would say like putting all your servers into Unturned, or would you ever consider just jumping ship to a different game completely, or no?
So to go back to your previous question, I did have some beef with Pine hosting and some beef with Modern hosting.
Oh,
So
Okay.
they were wanting to advertise
We're getting
when Modern.
into it now.
Okay,
Yo,
yeah. So
Pine
I just realized that because I was
hosting.
thinking about big providers, not small providers.
oh,
Can we
So
get the
I did
lore?
have
Can we
beef
get the
with
full lore on this?
them. So Modern
This is
was wanting to
interesting.
create his own hosting company, Modern Mo. And I was cocky at the time where Lyme was doing great. I was like, hey, bring it. Bring what you got. And sure enough, today he's still around and he wanted I think he was like advertising to different like customers of mine to steal them to get them on him. So he did do that a little bit. Pine Hosting what did I believe I don't understand the full story and I don't know the full thing. But this is my guess is I think like one of the owners or few of the like Brad and the other guy I think joined Lyme Hosting and messaged the guys as well of like, hey, come switch to us type thing. But I'm not 100% sure on that last part. So it's been a journey.
it's kind of funny
What?
because both those creators, both Z-Men have had conflicts with.
Yeah.
I've had a thing with Mo and the other fucking people. Brad?
Fine.
I like how I forgot.
Brad and Spam.
Brad, yeah, Pine. Modern hosting and Pine. So that was why. That's actually because I've been using Lyme to host my server for like I don't know the past 6 months. Just because I knew Lyme was like the better host out of the three. And then I heard that you were switching everyone to modern. I'm like, uh-oh.
That's crying.
I had to, that's like I actually messaged you. I messaged you, Lime. I'm like, is my server switched? Because like I thought it might have been because I saw you were switching over. I'm like, wait, is mine over there already? So I had to
Yeah.
ask and I had to check. And yeah, my I was good, but the server is I'm pretty sure it's gone now.
Rip Z-Man's play place.
I'll bring it back. I don't know. Lime, are you gonna? Yeah, you said you're going to. Whenever you come back, I'll just renew the host because that's like that was my
So
whole idea.
What a loyal
I think
customer,
right now like
man.
Lyme has gone through a lot of people. I've posted for lots of people. I think I've definitely learned from my mistakes a lot of the time. Where Lyme is not one perfect host. I've definitely had my fair share of flaws and whatnot, and so it's definitely learning as I go. And I think this next reborn of Lyme's hosting that I hope to release down the road, I want it to be better and provide a quality hosting instead of what it was, where I feel like it wasn't necessarily to my standard.
I remember this was a long time ago. I told Z-Man about your service because he wasn't really he'd heard of you and heard about your service, and I was explaining to him like that out of every other service that I've seen, you're probably one of the better options.
I already knew that Lyme was a thing.
But
I
when
just
he was considering
unsure.
when you were considering your actual play place, Z-Man's play place, I had to like tell you about Lyme and just go to him.
He reminded me of that Lyme would be a good.
I mean, like I also feel like that you have a presence that is not necessarily as tainted as others people's presence when it came to server hosting too. Like, I mean, I wouldn't trust certain server hosters with my money if I'm being completely honest because of the certain actions they've taken in the past with the Unturned community as a whole, and I wouldn't be giving them my money either. So I mean, you were kind of a person where I was like, I'm fine with just giving this guy money, you know, and also getting provided a good product for it, you know. So
because you're putting trust in me and like, hey, I'm gonna give you money, hoping that your hope you keep this computer online and hope you provide me a quality service instead of like, here's money and lost in a bliss and whatnot.
and you won't get anything, and your server will be down for like a week and have no support for like 3 days.
That would not be fun.
Modern hosting.
It was kind of funny because I guess I wanted to ask you this. What was the most weirdest like report that you ever gotten on your server hosting, like at all? Like, what was the most weirdest ticket they've ever received for a server, if you can remember one?
I personally can't really remember one. I think a lot of the time I get a lot of requests to have them like have us do things for them. Of like, hey, can you edit my permissions file? Or hey, can you do that? Like, it's all wanting us to do it for them instead of like showing like teaching them how to do it. They just want it done for them.
I guess that's interesting. I thought you would have like some funny stories of like some kid like asked for like a goldfish or something. I don't know.
What?
Future
What's your opinion on P9 faking his base release?
Oh my god.
No.
I didn't ask it this time.
Yeah, I gotta keep the running gag going.
I'm muting him right now. I can't
Wow.
hear him.
Everyone mute Night. Everyone mute Night.
Run mute Night.
Nerd emoji.
That's kind
Speaking
of funny.
nerd emoji.
But yeah, you again to go back to the point of like trust. Yeah, I think you're the most of every server provider that was currently available at the time when I was going into buying a server, because I've had bought a server for you since 2019, and I've been using it to test like I used to use it for testing glitches. Now I just use it as like kind of a community thing now. So I've been just doing that. But I mean, when I was looking into a service, you were the most like unproblematic person that I could probably find. So I was like, I trust this guy. And plus, prices were not gonna ruin my life. So
Absolutely. I think Lyhme has its own history. It's not a Scott clean perfect. I've made my fair share of mistakes. So I just want to make that be known, where I'm not a perfect person. My business is not perfect, but it's definitely, life is a learning experience, and as I go, it's definitely, I want to become a better person and learn from my mistakes.
Absolutely.
Question: how were you affected as a server hosting service when Unturned's max player count went from 20,000 to 40,000 in like a span of a few weeks? It was like a combination of Nelson adding momentum as well as one, I believe was it a Polish? Not Polish. It was one streamer, Portuguese streamer.
It wasn't
making
even
a video on
it.
it.
It was a YouTuber.
Well, no, he did stream.
Oh, he streamed it too? I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, he streamed it and then botted it, but yeah. Like, how was that? I don't remember 100%. I think by that occurring for the longest time, I used to check out Unturned numbers quite often, and be really involved into everything. But with I recently got a new job and wife and everything, I've really taken that step back. And so that's something I don't really know. And I hope when I do return that I can be more involved. I feel like back in the day when Lyhme was in its infancy, I was very well involved into the community. It's kind of like, oh, that's Lyhme. Like, I know Lyhme. Where now it's like, there is the old people that know me, but there's a lot of the new people that are like, wait, who's Lyhme and whatnot. I see.
Yeah.
So that's something I would love to work down, to reestablish, and to be able to know. It's like, oh, that's who I know who that person is.
Here's an interesting question: was there actually someone that was at your company that was looking into Unturned and looking at statistics and like trying to think like, oh, this is happening right now, and like letting you know anything like that, or no? Was it just really just from the company side, with just the company side basically?
Not necessarily. Not really. To go back to let's just jump back to the time, getting the time machine, and you were asking about like if anyone wanted me to jump ship from Unturned. The person who helped create Rocket Mod, his name was Gray. He worked alongside Sven, and we were close a little bit. We went on and off throughout our journey and whatnot, and I haven't spoken to him in a while. And he was actually trying to convince me a lot to jump ship from Unturned, but I was headstrong, and I was like, no, like this is where I want to be, and this is what I prefer. This is where I'm making my living at the moment, and whatnot. So it was a very hard decision of like, hey, Unturned is this way. You should just move to a different game. And I was like thinking of evolving to other games, but I've always just gone back to Unturned, where I would say it's like my home.
I see.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, that's nice loyalty, you know. There's not many people that are really loyal to the game as much as it's very like a very like small number of people who are really loyal to the game nowadays, as opposed like when it came to the entire game. Like I know there's like been waves of players like that cycle through, and only like a small portion of them stay. But most of the time, a lot of them, the majority of people leave. So it's very hard to find the hardcore Unturned fans. It's very nice to see that. Well, again, it's also very nice to see that you've been here for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely
We
still
salute
around,
you.
and I'm definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. So it's
Well,
definitely taking a day at a time.
I remember I guess I'll just go over the moment where you said, when I figured out that you were closing, I was literally at like a dinner
He was crying.
with family, and I was literally like looking at my phone, and I just saw like the messages, and everyone was freaking out. Like it was in the moment where everyone was like, "Oh shit, Lyhme is shutting down." And
Yeah,
like,
his entire family at the dinner table.
No, not my. No, I was looking at the
No.
turn. Like Lyhme, when everyone figured out that the message was that you guys were closing, literally almost every Unturned server had something to do with you. The entire community was like, "What is happening to Lyhme?" Everyone was that concerned, and I was like, "What's going on?" Even we were like, "What is going on?"
We thought you got bought out by Modern Hosting.
And they started
No.
crying.
I didn't even.
Fine.
I haven't made a cent from Modern Hosting, so Modern didn't come to be like, "Oh, here's $10,000." None of that. None of that. It's simply a seamless transition. At the end of the day, I'm going to probably be paying Modern to be able to be like, "Hey, this customer had $50 in account credit. Here's $50," or whatever that case may be. And so, besides that, it's not here. I want 10 G's for my hosting. It's none of that.
I see. No, but I guess the realization that that you were gonna actually like the service itself is leaving, really really sent waves through the community to a certain degree. If everyone was like, can even remember that, like, I was like, damn. And then you said that you like in the message like, how long you guys been going on, and then even me like I've been since 2019. I was like, man, I've been paying these guys since that long.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to think like to that. What was it? April of 2015. I started. That's when I registered the lymehosting.com domain.
Yeah, and I was like, it's.
I wish I had an image of that first website. You guys would think of like would laugh at me.
It can't be anything like as bad as like some Unturned servers websites that like that were like made in, like
yeah, it was
seconds.
bad. It was really, really bad.
I think
was one of the
I don't think it could be that bad.
Should like recreate something like it, because it was like a theme that I found on like YouTube. It was a WordPress theme, and I followed a tutorial on it, and I slapped like PayPal buttons on it.
That's kind of funny. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of more questions to ask you. I don't know if the cast has anything.
Trying to think. Yeah, Z-Man's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. He's like, he just got bought out by Modern Hosting.
Oh yeah.
You said that first. It wasn't even me.
We were all.
No, I never said that. I never said that.
Someone said it before I did, and then I was like,
"Nope, it was you."
No, I was skeptical. I was skeptical because I'm like, there's no way that Modern makes enough money to buy Lyhme. That's just not real. I said that. I remember.
Maybe I did say it first. I don't know.
You definitely did. The nerd emoji.
Okay, well, shut up, Z-Man. You're the schizo.
Nerd emoji is worse than schizophrenia.
Man, you're right.
No, I don't know. It's just interesting to see. Actually, Lyhme, I have a question. Since Z-Man hasn't asked it. You gave Z-Man that was a couple more slots on the server for,
I forgot
free.
about that.
What was the thought process there? Like
I don't really remember that. I think when I found out Z-Man was hosting through me, I think I was shocked.
You were shocked? Really?
Because I don't know what customers come through. Like I don't hearing that. Oh yeah, I've had a server from you for since 2019. That like blows my mind. Like it's weird to like hear people as they like probably arrive of being like, oh yeah, I've used Lyhme, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like for the longest time, Fudgy was using Lyhme for a good while, and I had no idea and whatnot. So it's not like I go snoop through server names. It's more of just people just pop up out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, you use Lyhme. I had no idea.
So oh, that's interesting. I didn't,
because you see their first and last name. You see their real first and last name. It's not like Z-Man's going around and be like, my name's Billy Bob Joe, like or whatever.
Mine was probably more confusing because I think I used the Gucci Gang 42069 email.
He just leaked himself.
Nah, it's fine. That's like my that's my burner email. It doesn't matter.
This guy.
So like I don't know what comes down the line. So it's a very interesting thing. I think for the longest time I think I probably hosted for NTech before I realized it's very interesting to see what occurs. I'm just like, oh, I had no idea.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
And some people just want to stay anonymous, and
I didn't know
paying for their server and continue each day and doesn't reach out and be like, hey, can I get a discount? They act as another customer.
Or imagine being the nerd emoji who's like, hey, can I get a free server? Hey, can I get a discount?
Has there
Wait, Knight, why are you reenacting yourself?
Shut up.
Has there been a content creator that's asked you for like free stuff at all? Because I feel like they would do it out of everyone in the community.
I've had I think a fair share of YouTubers reach out and be like, hey, can I get a free server and whatnot?
What was your response to all that?
Speaking of that, Lyhme, I have 2.6k subs. Can I get a free server?
No, nerd emoji doesn't get a server.
No, I get a server.
What was your general response to people that said stuff to you like that? You just tell them no?
I think it depends on each situation, depending on each person. So like, it depends on a case-to-case basis.
You would have just said like a lowercase N-O and then just send?
Yeah, that's...
I would love to see if they have potential and see what comes of it.
Tell them to fuck off sometimes, you know?
I think if I told that, I think there'd be breaking news. Breaking news! Lyhme said F off.
It's very new to me.
Somebody would make
a video. I don't swear often, so if I came out and said that, I think that would be ripple effects to the Unturned community of being like, what just happened?
Yeah, but like, imagine having that much power, bro, and you're not even abusing it. Like, what's the point?
What's the point?
And then I think if that was the case, I don't think you'd be choosing Lyhme, and I don't think you'd be interviewing me.
Bro, I know I'd be choosing Lyhme.
Z-Man would be interviewing you.
I think you'd be like, no, I'm gonna stay away from this dude.
That's funny. No, I'm not even sure. Because I'm not really sure.
Trident, get off Phantom Forces.
That's interesting.
Do you think you left like a really big vacuum? Like once you're well, you haven't really fully left. You're still like in it, right? You're still here. Do you feel like of course there was a big power vacuum, like tons of people are trying to like get your people that were hosting from you. How do you feel about that, actually? How do you feel about how many people have actually come out to try to take your paying customers?
I've only had Modern reach out and Pine reach out. I've never really had anyone else reach out to me.
Of course.
Yeah, but like how do you feel about like?
Well, now you got Knight Hosting reaching out to you. Can we have your paying customers, Lyhme?
I think it's hard. Like it's hard because like I'm in my mind right now where I'm just like, dang, I wish I never closed down, or dang, like I wish I continued. But like part of me where I'm grateful right now to give a fresh start, because then I can offer a more quality service instead of just coming out there and be like, hey, choose Lyhme Hosting, and then I want a more of a consistency nodes across the board. Nodes are computers, and so more of the same instead of such a dynamicness. And this allows me to have that clean start, to walk into the picture and be like, okay, let's do this. And I can be able to, by doing that, can give in return a better experience to you guys.
Well, that's always good. I actually had this thought just came to my mind. Has there ever been a situation where there has been groups of people trying to target specific Lyme servers and succeed in a way?
I think there, like with back in the day with Modern reaching out, with that, I think definitely people have had their fair share of like wanting to reach out. I know Pine is doing did an announcement of like, hey, show proof that you're a Lyme hosting customer. We'll give you a free month free. Like, I definitely know those exist out there, but it's definitely.
Yo, Z-Man, you should
no,
hit the
I didn't mean like
bro.
server providers. I mean like, has there ever been like I guess I could say hackers or anybody like malicious trying to harm specifically your like servers and your hosting at all?
Not necessarily. I always kept my head down. A lot of time, that's what I personally did. Just going through things of like keeping to myself.
Well, that's interesting.
If
And so
somebody
not
ever
wanting to-
DDoSed your network, would you dox them in retaliation? I know I would.
No.
I don't think it's worth it. I think
Oh.
I've had someone when back in the day I did have someone like you're bringing back weird memories. So like I've had someone join my Discord or what was it? TeamSpeak join in and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna hack you. I'm gonna DDoS you," and I was like, "Bring it!" and whatnot when I was whatnot. So that was a very interesting.
No,
situation.
you just reply with like 147.39.
Do you like? Because I know like of certain groups of people that have went out of their way to go ahead and target groups of servers like main server like chains and completely make them like unusable because they're sending so many packets to the server. So it was like basically one of the most like difficult attacks to deal with. That was like happening back in like I think it was 2018, 17 with a big hacking organization which I will not name. But like that was happening, and I was wondering if that ever touched you. But I guess I never touched you.
Yeah, with the community, I really kept down to myself. I personally host for, like, I don't. It's complicated to explain with how mine and Nihilix's relationship, but I get notified when Nihilix gets at like his computer gets DDoSed, and so I've had lots of those alerts come through. And back in the day, I've had the fair share of alerts that like, hey, you're being attacked. But they're not very common as they used to.
Are you hooked directly to Nihilix's computer currently?
So like Nihilix used to host through me, and then I offered him like, hey, you can I'll resell this computer to you, and so I'm reselling a computer to him, and then I help like, hey, this is having troubles like such as I've helped set up Windows on the computer. I've given him scripts to be able to help him with his Unturned servers.
Wait, Charles, there are hacking organizations for Unturned? What?
I'm sure that's a thing.
And this is the first time hearing of that.
I have a question, actually.
What's up?
I don't know if you can answer this, but I will ask. So, like, how many customers were transferred to Modern? Like, you know, if you can't answer, that's fine. But like, if
that's
have,
still in the process.
Oh, it's still in the process.
But let's say I'm gonna say like over 100.
100?
Lyme was not the small little hosting provider, my dude.
100. That's interesting.
Someone do
I
the
didn't
math,
know that there were that
bro,
many people.
That's like 3 digits.
100.
Someone do the math. That's like...
Because I know because I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so I'm going to anyway because it's interesting.
But
I know stuff about Pine hosting, and I know they have like 5 customers. Like they're kind of dead, not gonna lie. So to hear like that there's 100 people using Lyme, that's like.
That's the number I'm going to give you.
That's the number you're giving me.
This guy.
Let's just say that's it's more than that.
It was at
more?
least. It was at least
God.
1.
I think the Lyme was on a larger scale than let's say Pine hosting to Modern hosting. It's on a larger scale. I've have well over, I would say over 8 locations before closing down.
Damn.
That's crazy. I didn't know there were that many.
Yeah,
that's pretty
people.
cool.
Yeah.
So that like expanding
So now
quick,
they're all
is
getting
not always
transferred to
best.
modern.
The ones that don't cancel before
Don't
transfer.
cancel before.
All right, you hear that,
How
guys?
many have
So
canceled?
anyone that
It's
has a
the
Lyme
Wolf
server,
of
please
Wall
cancel your
Street
server.
of Unturned.
How many have canceled? Actually, that's another question.
That's something I don't know. I'm not collecting. I'm not logging those numbers.
Oh, I see.
That's fair.
Don't you have to like send a like reason of why you're closing your server to get it even closed?
You can submit a cancellation request, or you can just let it terminate on its own, or you can just let it transfer to modern.
I see. Okay. I'm trying to think of things to ask you because I mean I think there is a lot, but it's not necessarily interesting. Like I think I asked you.
Do you enjoy playing Unturned? Like just yeah.
I would definitely say so. It's definitely I haven't really played survival. When I play it very little and I stop. I'm more of in the behind the scenes type of person to create the experience for the player. That's why if you ever got on like Lyhme.com or like Lyhme.gg and joined one of those servers, I think you would definitely like. It's going to be definitely a different experience than if, let's say, you join a different server. And that's how I've engineered it to the messages, to the message colors, to the way the UIs look. I'm very particular on how everything looks.
I guess that's an interesting question to ask you. Have you ever played any of the new curated maps that have been added to Unturned?
Not 100%, but I think I played a little bit.
You know the maps that you played?
I think I know there's a few maps that have come out, but I don't think I've necessarily actually played them. I think I've seen them, I've heard of them, and I know what they are, but I don't think I've necessarily like jumped on and like, hey, let's go exploring and whatnot.
I see. So, okay.
So what is your opinion on Unturned lore?
To my knowledge of it, I think it's awesome. I love how there is a lore in it.
Right? It's just so...
Oh my god.
It's like...
Shut up.
Knight's like, right? I'm like, god damn it.
Right? Like, no, I'm serious, bro. Alright.
That's just funny.
Listen, y'all can stay sheep if you want, especially you, Charles.
I just think it's funny that you said
The
it.
nerd speaks.
I'm really happy that by the amount of people that put nerd emojis under your messages of announcements. I'm very happy.
Listen, I took screenshots of the time when you were in when you showed your face cam. All right, you better watch your fucking
This
tone,
guy's
Charles.
Why
you?
Can someone
It's
flip
threatening.
this and put the nerd emoji up with the threat, and then make like some meme like the devil shivers
Mhm.
when a nice guy gets
Man.
in.
Man, I never was a nice guy. I'll have you know.
I'm just like I think most of the questions I asked you, like the looming questions about Lyme, have been really answered. I'm not really sure if there's anything else I want to ask you that wouldn't get into like anything like big, like money or anything like that. I don't know. Does any of you guys have any more questions? Because we've passed the hour mark now.
What's your opinion on Z-Man faking his base raids?
I don't even do base
He did
raids.
do a base raid.
This is a nerd emoji moment.
Exactly. That's how much
He doesn't want to answer any
Yes, no,
drama
he
related
admits it.
questions.
He doesn't do his base raids. He just admitted it, bro.
Nerd emoji speaks.
All right.
This guy.
Man, I can't wait.
Hold on. I have the perfect gift for this. Let me get it and put it in the
Don't
chat.
send it. Don't
Oh,
send
you're the
it.
night raider, the
I'm gonna
night
send
raider,
it.
the night
I'm
raider.
gonna ban you from my
I
Discord.
already got it.
Send it.
He got it already.
I guess I can ask Lyme this. Lyme,
Admit.
how do you feel about the Unturned community as a whole? Like, how do you feel about it?
Unturned creators?
No, yeah, they're included, but like, how do you feel about the Unturned community as a whole?
I think it's definitely what I see a different perspective on them. So like I see I have multiple perspectives on them, such as like I know that they can be very. The Unturned community is, I guess I'm trying to figure out the words to say. Like, I guess it's
Racist.
all backgrounds, and there's so many different components to it. Where I've seen a lot of good from the Unturned community, and why I say that, if you such as like with my own Unturned community, I have when you join it, you get the hey, welcome, or hey, like, hey, how do I do this? You get people responding to you. You get that friendly crowd where like the toxic side, people can look at it as I haven't really encountered myself, and I don't really deal with that side because I'm in the side of things of PvE instead of PvP, where I feel like those are very different in the Unturned community. Where if you get in PvP, people are going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to go kick your butt" and whatnot. Where you're going to get PvE, where it's like, "Hey, why you stealing my plants, bro?" Like it's a very, very dynamic like community. But overall, I think there definitely is good. I definitely want to look at it as a positive. That without the Unturned community, we wouldn't be where we are. And whatnot.
Very true. I personally like the diversity of the Unturned community. There are people who are racist against black people, people who are racist against
Oh my
Asians,
gosh.
people who are
This is why we're
racist
never
against
getting anyone on
Mexicans.
this show.
Man, come on. That
People who
wasn't
aren't
funny.
racist. People who aren't racist.
That's not funny.
This guy.
Then why are you laughing, Z-Man? Then why are you laughing?
Because it was just so, like, read
so
the
out of
room, man.
pocket.
This is the
Alright.
serious episode. We're not
Man,
doing
there's
those
no
jokes this
such
today,
thing.
man.
I guess
Come
there is
on.
such thing as a
Man.
serious
Oh
episode.
my gosh, that's
Z-Man,
embarrassing.
you're not.
Embarrassing, he
Z-Man.
says.
Come on, bro.
I like how Z-Man says that. Like this guy is the one that says P9 makes his base rates. Like every episode. And he's like, that's embarrassing.
On me, bro.
That's embarrassing.
Oh well, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we made you uncomfortable. This is all for jokes.
Actually, it's not a joke for night.
Well, I guess that's it. I mean, I have a couple things to say, before I eventually end this episode, because I think we got through everything we really wanted to go through with you, Lyhme. Thank you again for coming to the show. I was not really expecting you to actually show up.
Yeah, I guess it's cool having you here.
Because usually the people that are kind of like on the sidelines when it comes to the community are kind of elusive and kind of not really talked about. Are the people that don't necessarily show up too much. Nihilix.
Bro.
Here, I'll go get on his butt about it. Here, let me go.
Man, no, he's
Do
gonna be
it,
on the
do it.
episode next
Yell at
week.
him, bro.
I asked him about that. But again, thank you for coming on. It was very much appreciated to get your 2 cents on everything that's going on with you, and it's good to hear from you that you're still going to be here. You're still going to be rocking with Unturned, rocking the Unturned pride. So
Most definitely. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's definitely a learning experience being a part of this.
no problem, man. All right, well, that's going to conclude this episode of the Unturned podcast. I've been your host, cucuycharles, and y'all have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.